Let me go straight to Aishwarya Jain, who joins us live from outside 7 LKM. That's where the meeting has begun now. It's 6:05. Home Minister Amit Shah arrived in Delhi a few minutes ago, Aishwarya. The challenges are multi-layered, and hence the response is also likely to be multi-layered. But, as it has been the case in the past, it's unlikely that we'll know about it, immediately, but perhaps some indication is likely to come post this crucial meeting.
Well, that's the convention as far as Modi government working style is concerned. Immediately, the actions aren't being taken, and it depends on the time and the suitable day when this action will, because it is the Home Minister, it is the Defence Minister who's echoed what Prime Minister had stated, that the perpetrators will not be left alone, and the justice will be delivered to those who have, left left their loved ones. But the update from the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg over here at the Prime Minister's residence is that Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, NSA Ajit Doval, all have arrived at the Prime Minister's residence, and in a very short while the CCS will begin. Of course, this is a body that will take decisions perhaps pertaining to the national security. It is Finance Minister who is coming back from the United States, and therefore she will not be taking part. But Home Minister Amit Shah, who was in Jammu and Kashmir, visited several spots of that terrorist site, as far as meeting the family members, taking the first-hand information from them, the eyewitnesses who had seen that deadly terror attack, and also the review meetings that he had taken, the security officials that spoke to him, and what information that he has gathered. He had come down to the national capital, and now he is at the 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. Prime Minister was continuously monitoring the situation since the morning. Remember, at Palam Technical Air Base, when he cut short his visit to Saudi Arabia, it was a briefing that was given by the External Affairs Minister, Foreign Secretary, and NSA Ajit Doval there at the Palam Technical Air Base only, and then he came to the residence. Rajnath Singh had a separate meeting as a residence with all the 3 Army, Navy and Air Force staff chiefs, and perhaps that meeting had also figured that what action the defense can take, whether there will be a military action or whether there will be a diplomatic action against Pakistan, is something that government might have thought of. But immediately, as I mentioned, we will not get certain information because it's a very, very sensitive issue, a very, very emotional issue for the country. Every Indian is angry of what has happened in Jammu and Kashmir, and therefore the reason perhaps an all-important meeting after all the top Rai Sena ministers arriving back to Delhi and now meeting under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
I can see Sunil Prabhu joining us as well. We also have Vishnu Shom joining us from the newsroom. Sunil, coming to you, because the response is also about ensuring that those, because the attack is on the tourists. In the next few days, the number of tourists would go down, but perhaps not reduce drastically. The sense among the security agencies, and even as we speak, there is another meeting which is happening at the Raj Bhavan in Srinagar, which is about ensuring the safety and security of those who are there on the ground. Do you think that the first response of the government would also be about strengthening the counter-infiltration grid?
Well, I think it's going to be a multifold, response system, and I think those who have been privy to how the Cabinet Committee on Security works, they will, of course, the Home Minister who has just returned from the Srinagar Valley and, taken a first-hand account, met the Lieutenant Governor as well as the Chief Minister, other officials, been to the site, will give his assessment, what the investigation is going forward. The perpetrators of this ghastly and one of the worst attacks after 26/11, that is in 2008. So it's definitely something that, this is not any ordinary attack that has taken place in Pahalgam. What had happened was a very concerted attack on many former serving government officials. So this has been something that has been well planned and well orchestrated by our enemies from across the border. It's not been a simple exercise. So I think certain guidelines, as you point out very importantly, about tourism, how you take it forward to ensure that, you should not be identified. All those aspects will be looked at. Yes, the fear factor will be there. But more importantly, for those who have seen the CCS, they will, the preliminary meeting that the Defence Minister had, and we've got an inkling of what he had to say when he addressed, at that lecture, that those behind this conspiracy cannot get away. I think that's something that we've seen in India ever since the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government, and earlier too, during the UPA government, we have seen surgical strikes. We have seen in the run-up to the 2019 election, the Balakot after Pulwama. What exactly happens? There's no elections immediately, but whatever has to be done well thoughtful and orchestrated to ensure that the perpetrators of this heinous crime, this dastardly attack, are brought to book, and a message is sent that India will not be found wanting for any action when it comes to securing its own interests.
Sunil, since you mentioned Balakot after Pulwama, that happened, of course, in the run to 2019 elections, the response again then wasn't really quick fire. There was, a well thought out response which came almost a week after what played out in Pulwama. Are you sensing that at the moment it will be about strengthening of the troops on the ground, that the number of booths which are there on the ground, particularly in terms of the paramilitary, that has to be strengthened to give that confidence for those who are there, people of Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I think there are enough of troops. I don't think there have been, any, want of troops or armed forces or paramilitary forces in the, whole of Jammu and Kashmir. I think we have a huge presence. What has been done was the target that they identified was well thought of. The people that they identified in terms of this heinous killing that has taken place, most of them serving officials, or either from the armed forces, from the paramilitary forces, serving government officials. And it's in that backdrop that, there are certain soft targets. Pahalgam was one, because this is always a scenic place away from, nobody would have thought that this would be a place for a terror strike. So these are things where terrorists, try to strike with impunity. And it's in that backdrop, I think they will definitely try to ensure that those soft targets that are being selected by terrorists must be identified and strengthened in the Srinagar Valley. Of course, you will need to build up the confidence. We have seen a great amount of tourist arrivals last year in Srinagar. Will it be affected this time? The initial response from the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir has been that tourism is going to be affected to a great extent. Let's hope and pray that one of the answers to these terrorists is that tourism as well as activities in the Kashmir Valley do not fall prey to terrorist activities.
Yes, let me bring in Vishnu now. Vishnu, the question is, will there be a diplomatic offensive? Because at 7 p.m. is when we can expect a briefing which will happen at the Jawaharlal Nehru Bhavan. The response to Pakistan in particular becomes important given how the nation in general is so upset and angry given the nature of this cowardly attack.
I think let's just reflect what's happened in the last 24 hours since that terrorist attack, 26 people killed, is the following. We've got a Cabinet Committee on Security meeting taking place right now. That Cabinet Committee on Security meeting is quite directly linked with the attack which took place. You've had the Home Minister Amit Shah travel to Pahalgam and come back as well. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who's been in the United States, is coming back as well. The Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, in his most direct remarks by any minister in this government, has said that India will respond. His remarks seem to indicate that there will be a military option which India is looking at very closely. Most significantly, he said that India's response is going to come in a finite period of time. At 7 p.m. today, as you mentioned, there's going to be an important briefing by the External Affairs Ministry, a senior official over there. Perhaps we'll get an idea of the diplomatic steps that India is going to take. It's not just going to be diplomatic steps, I would suggest. Perhaps there would be something more. But in terms of what that more would be is something that we need to look at very, very closely. India, if it does choose to reply militarily, will choose a time and place that works for our armed forces. This cannot be something that is done in haste. If there is a message that needs to be sent out, it has to be done effectively. And if Pakistan is to be attacked, then there is a certain message which needs to be sent out. This cannot just be for show, it has to be militarily effective as well. Again, we will get to that stage at a later stage. There is a build-up taking place. That Cabinet Committee on Security is just one meeting. There will be several other meetings before anything is done in terms of operationalizing our armed forces.